Kindly record your answers in the chat box or as a voice message, what we have discussed in the last class. Only one answer I have got. Subhikshna has given. What about others? Give answers on the malfunctions of different cell organelles, what we have discussed in the last class. And I appreciate everyone for submitting your assignments in time. Only few members have been submitted lately, where others have submitted in time. Very good. And I have evaluated also. Yeah, we have discussed about cell membrane causes cystic fibrosis, nucleus causes progeria, lysosome mucopolysaccharidosis, not mucopolysaccharides, it is mucopolysaccharidosis. Then, yeah, mitochondria causes Lyme syndrome, not Light syndrome, Lyme syndrome. And then endoplasmic reticulum causes Alzheimer's disease. So we'll start the class now. So under introduction of clinical chemistry, we have discussed 3 contents based on the syllabus, that is cell, the composition and malfunction. And the third part is a role of clinical chemistry laboratory. First 2 parts has been completed. Now the third part is going to be discussed. In cell, we have seen its components and function, then composition and malfunction, all we have discussed. And hope you have learned all the points. Now let's move on to the third part, that is role of clinical chemistry laboratory. In cell, we have seen the cell structure, cell function, then cell composition, the characteristics of each component present in the cell. Then we have seen the cell malfunctions, what are all the disorders caused by different dysfunction of different cell organelles. Now we'll move on to role of clinical chemistry laboratory, where we have discussed purpose of clinical chemistry laboratory and key concepts, right? This all we have discussed now in the last class. Regarding what is the purpose of clinical chemistry laboratory, it is applicable to perform qualitative and quantitative analysis on body fluids. What are all the fluids? Blood, urine, spinal fluid, feces, tissue, and other materials are tested in the laboratory. There are 3 key concepts are going to be discussed under clinical chemistry laboratory, and it is going to be followed in each laboratory. One is testing concentrations or activities of substances. What type of substances? Ions, molecules, and complexes in body fluids are tested. What all the body fluids are generally tested means whole blood, plasma, serum, urine, and cerebrospinal fluid. And after analyzing the fluids for specific constituents, the results are interpreted by using reference intervals. Okay, mainly it is taking medical decision level for diagnosis or treatment of any disease, it is considered. Now we'll see what all the substances are in fluids are analyzed, and what type of body fluids are used, and how it is used before analysis, and how it is collected from the patient. Everything is going to be discussed. And what is medical decision level, what are reference intervals to interpret the test result. Test result after testing the particular constituent from a body fluid, we need to test the obtained result. How it is tested, how we are comparing with the reference intervals. So these three things are going to be discussed under clinical chemistry laboratory. Okay. First, we'll move on to the first concept, that is common analytes in clinical chemistry laboratory. That's what we have seen in the first key concept. So what are the common analytes are going to be discussed, means analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. The first part is ions, salts and minerals. Ions, salts and minerals. Here potassium, sodium, calcium, chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, carbon dioxide, lead and iron are going to be analyzed. Usually are analyzed in laboratories. Then smaller organic molecules composed of metabolites, therapeutic drugs, toxic substances, then drugs of abuse, DOA. These are all categories of drugs. As smaller organic molecules are analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. Examples are given here. You can note it down. Glucose, metabolites like glucose, cholesterol, urea, lactic acid, bilirubin, creatinine, triglycerides, etc. Then therapeutic drugs like vancomycin, theophylline, digoxin, phenytoin, this all. Then toxic substances like alcohol, salicylate, aspirin, acetaminophen, this all. Then drugs of abuse like cocaine, barbiturates, amphetamines, opiates, cannabinoids. So these are all the small organic molecules are analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. Where let's say about large macromolecules, these are all mostly macro, means mostly proteins will be analyzed. So what are the different types of proteins analyzed? Means transport proteins, enzymes, specific proteins. Macromolecules represents proteins, large molecules. So what are the different types of proteins? Transport proteins, enzymes. Enzymes are also proteins. Then specific proteins. These are all analyzed as large macromolecules in laboratory, clinical chemistry laboratory. Where transport proteins include albumin, transferrin, haptoglobin, ferritin, total protein, etc. Then enzymes, lipase, amylase, alanine aminotransferase, then aspartate aminotransferase. These two enzymes for SGOT and SGPT level testing, it is applicable. Then alkaline phosphatase, lactate dehydrogenase, creatine kinase. These are all different various isoenzymes, and enzymes are analyzed in CCL. Then specific proteins like immunoglobulins, complement C3, complement C4, and C-reactive proteins, CRP. These are all tested as specific proteins under CCL. CCL represents clinical chemistry laboratory. Then also includes large macromolecules, includes lipoproteins and diabetes marker, where hemoglobin and lipoproteins, high density, low density, chylomicrons, triglycerides, very low density lipoproteins. These are lipid profile is tested under lipoproteins as larger macromolecules. Okay, so these are the common analytes are analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. What are the things? Ions, salts and minerals, smaller organic molecules, then large macromolecules. Now let's see the second key concept, that is fluids that are typically analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. Means what are all the fluids are tested commonly in clinical chemistry laboratory, that we'll see. That is the second concept, right? So first we have seen what are the biomolecules present in the body fluids are tested. Now we'll see what type of fluids are tested for the particular constituent. These are all the different fluids are analyzed, like blood composed of whole blood, serum or plasma are analyzed, then urine, then cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, then amniotic fluid, saliva, synovial fluid, where it is present in joint cavities, then pleural fluid in the lungs, then pericardial fluid, cardial represents heart, then peritoneal is abdomen fluid. So fluid is collected from various parts. and they are tested for different constituents. Commonly used fluids are blood and urine. When our specific constituent deductions will be going with other fluids. So now let's see how the blood and urine samples are collected and how it is used. So let's move on to the common fluid, that is blood. Usually we'll be going for blood test and urine test to know about to diagnose and treat any disease. It will be done. Blood analysis and urine analysis is done. Now let's see what is blood sample, how it is to be collected, and what are the different containers to collect various blood samples. Now you have to know what is serum and plasma. You should know the difference between serum and plasma when the blood sample is collected, where serum is nothing but without adding anticoagulant. Without adding anticoagulant, the sample is allowed to get into blood clot. Once you take the blood and keep it for some period, here you can see the time 2 to 3 hours. Once the blood is drawn, you have to keep it after centrifuge. You need to keep it 2 to 3 hours. Then you will get the blood clot, and that is sedimentation. All cells will be clotted by means of clotting factors. So you will be getting a supernatant liquid. That supernatant liquid is called serum. Okay, so that is taken for analysis. Okay, so it will be excluded with all cell particles, cells, WBC, RBC, these all will be removed from serum. Where plasma is nothing but it is added with anticoagulant. Anticoagulant means it will not allow for coagulation or clot formation. So when anticoagulant is added, then you will get the liquid blood sample like a sediment of cells, RBC, WBC, platelets, and then plasma. That is also supernatant liquid. So only you can take the plasma for analysis. So plasma composed of anticoagulant, where serum is nothing but the clotted blood. Clotted blood, this clot will not consider, we'll be considering supernatant liquid for analysis. And how this plasma is prepared means it will be added in a diatube H. Here you can see the tube name is diatube H, where it will be added with, before collecting your sample itself, it will be added with anticoagulant, and it is inoculated in ice for 15 to 60 minutes, so 1 hour, around 1 hour. Then it is centrifuged for 30 minutes at 4 degrees Celsius, so that you will get plasma, that is supernatant liquid. After centrifuge only will be, so centrifugation is the process for separation of serum and plasma from blood sample. Okay, what process will be isolating plasma and serum? Through centrifugation process. These two samples are supernatant liquids collected from the blood sample after centrifugation, where serum is just allowed for clotting up to 2 to 3 hours. Then it is centrifuged to collect the serum. Clear serum is obtained. Likewise, plasma, how it is collected? When it is added with anticoagulant, after centrifugation, you will get a supernatant liquid that is called plasma. Okay. So serum equals to plasma minus clotting factors. Clotting factors will be there with serum, where plasma will not be having clotting factors, since it will be eliminated with anticoagulants. Okay, so no coagulation occurs in the plasma sample. This is what serum and plasma, difference between serum and plasma. Whole blood also, like you will be keeping like plasma sample only. The whole blood will be having all the constituent cells and plasma, also plasma proteins, all the things it will be included. And blood also, if you want to test whole blood, that also to be taken with anticoagulant. If it is not added with anticoagulant, then soon you will get the clot. Then you will get only serum for analysis. So if the whole blood is needed to be analyzed, then it must be added with anticoagulant. Okay. So now let's move on to the types of blood collection tubes commonly used for chemistry tests. What are the different types of tubes? They will be differentiated with the cap. Hope you would have seen during the blood collection in the laboratories. You could have seen they will be storing our blood sample in different containers. Will be colored, means closed with different colored caps. So what that caps represents? Here there are three categories of blood samples we need to analyze. Like one is whole blood, another one is serum, and another one is plasma. Blood of three categories are going to be tested for different category of diseases to diagnose different diseases. So if the serum collection is taking place, for serum collection we'll be preferring red and yellow tube. Okay, serum blood collection tubes, serum collection tubes, red and yellow tubes are used. Additives are for serum, we will not be adding any anticoagulant. Instead, we will be adding clot activator so that clot formation occurs easily. So, clot activator with gel is added. Then type will be vacuum tube or non-vacuum tube will be available. The amount of blood collected will be 4 ml to 6 ml, likewise 4 ml to 6 ml. Then size of tube will be given like this, 13 into 75 millimeter type. And when it is collected means for testing serum biochemistry, drug monitoring, and serum immunology tests. Then yellow tubes will be applicable for serum biochemistry, drug monitoring, and serum immunology tests. For these two categories, we'll be using red and yellow tubes, where red tubes indicates no additives are added, where like clot activator, where yellow tubes will be added with clot activator. If we are not adding clot activator also, the blood will be automatically going for clot formation. For making the clot formation fast, we'll be adding with clot activator. That is done with yellow tubes, where in red tubes it is plain tube, no additives are added like clot activator. Okay, that is the difference between red and yellow. So for the serum collection, what kind of tubes will be using? Red tubes or yellow tubes. Likewise, whole blood sample collection will be using another color tubes, lavender and black colored tubes for whole blood collection. When lavender tubes are used, EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacid acid is added. Okay, K represents potassium. Potassium editate is added. This is a complexing agent. Okay, so to form it is a complexing agent. To form complex with the constituents present in whole blood, it will be added. Okay, and it is mainly added for hematology tests. When lavender tubes to collect whole blood are used means for hematology tests. Added with ESR. What is ESR? I don't know. I hope you would have studied in HAP. What is ESR? If anyone knows, you can say what is ESR. And it is applicable for sedimentation rate test. When whole blood is collected with black colored tube, then it is meant for sedimentation test. Ajita, do you know what is ESR? Sedimentation rate, right? Erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I think so. But here it is not correlating with that point. Maybe for erythrocytes, RBC cell counting, will be using this black colored tube, ESR. For it is tested for sedimentation rate test only, so it will be correct. Erythrocyte sedimentation rate. But additive here, what will be adding for sedimentation erythrocytes? Any specific? You should have calculated RBC cells, no? Should have determined, right? What specific chemical, any chemical you will be adding for making RBC cells to get sedimented? Anyone can give an answer on that? Any reagent we will be adding with the whole blood to make all RBC cells to get precipitated or sedimented? If so, what? If you know, kindly refer a HAP practical manual and tell me in the next class. Okay. Already in the last class, I have asked one more question, right? Lipoprotein A. What is that? Anyone found? These two questions. Kindly refer and tell me. Okay. If you are referring, even you can put it as a message also in the classroom, in the stream, so that I could see. Then so whole blood is tested for hematology, and whole blood is collected for hematology test and sedimentation rate test, and it is collected in lavender and black tubes. Lavender tubes will be added with EDTA, where black tubes will be applicable for erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Then plasma sample collection. This is the third sample collected from blood. So from blood, serum, blood, whole blood, and plasma is collected. For collection of plasma, we'll be using three kind of tubes: gray color, light blue, and green color. Where gray color will be added with the additive called sodium fluoride and potassium oxalate. Sodium fluoride and potassium oxalate. This is mostly used test, I think so, for glucose test. Okay, this type of tubes are used for collecting blood samples, mainly for plasma blood collection tubes. Okay, where it will be added with sodium fluoride and potassium oxalate. So this will be of anticoagulants, since plasma sample is added with anticoagulant. So what is the example for anticoagulant? Sodium fluoride and potassium oxalate. And this particular tubes containing plasma will be applicable for glucose test, analysis of blood sugar. It is done with gray color tube. Then light blue color will be added with sodium citrate. This is also another anticoagulant of 3.2%. Okay, it may be collected in vacuum or non-vacuum type of tubes, and maximum of 2 ml of blood is collected, and this is the size of tube 13 into 75 millimeter, and it is applicable for coagulation test. For that, sodium citrate is added. Then green color cap tube for plasma sample will be having lithium heparin. Lithium heparin is also a heparin, you will be knowing, anticoagulant. So lithium heparin also an anticoagulant. It is used for emergency biochemistry and plasma biochemistry tests. Okay, so these are all the various color coding for collection of various kind of blood samples like serum, whole blood, and plasma, and their usage. Okay, and additives added in that each tube also is given. A red tube only is not added with any additive, where other tubes are added with additives, and that you can read and remember all the tubes. So you will be, when you are working in a clinical chemistry laboratory or going to clinical chemistry laboratory, kindly observe in what colored tube your blood sample is collected and stored, so that what kind of sample they are testing for analyzing some constituents or to diagnose some diseases, that you can observe generally, so you will get idea and you will get knowledge also regarding clinical chemistry tests. So this is about blood and various types of samples collected in blood, and various types of blood collection tubes used for clinical tests. Then next we'll move on to the urine sample. These two samples are commonly used for analyzing biomolecules, general constituents, blood and urine. So if we analyze these two fluids only, we can find out maximum. Maximum existence of disease. What disease it is? If at all we want some specific constituent to be detected, then we need to collect some other constituents from particular part of the tissue, like peritoneal, pericardial, synovial, cerebrospinal, like that. But from particular part or particular part of the body, we can collect the sample and test. Next, we'll see about under urine, we'll see different types of urine samples. There are 4 types of urine samples are collected for urine sample analysis. First morning sample, then random urine sample, then timed urine sample, then 24-hour urine sample. What, ma? Who is absent today? Only 29 today also. Meenakshi is present. How are you? Fine, no? Meenakshi, are you fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. Then who is absent?
Gautam, ma'am.
I'm Gautam.
Gautam, how is he? Any health issue?
Yes, ma'am. He's having fever.
Okay. Okay, let's proceed with the class. So types of urine samples. There are 4 types of samples we'll be collecting. Okay, that is first one is first morning sample, then random urine sample, then timed urine sample, then 24-hour urine sample. Where first morning sample, how it is used means it provides a concentrated sample of urine that contains the overnight accumulation of metabolites. Okay. So provides first morning urine sample provides a concentrated sample of urine that contains the overnight accumulation of metabolites, and it is useful for detection of proteins or unusual analytes. Okay, proteins or unusual analytes. Then random samples, so it will be considered as concentrated urine sample which contains many metabolites. What type of metabolites? Proteins and unusual analytes. So if you want to test any particular type of protein or analyte, any metabolite, then we need to collect first morning sample. Then random urine sample, it is convenient sample that can be collected at any time. Most often used for routine screening tests. For urine routine test analysis, we'll be collecting random urine sample. Then timed urine sample, typically 2 to 6 hours of urine output is collected. 2 to 6 hours of urine output is collected to give a representative sample. Okay. Duration of collection depends on the analytes. Duration of collection depends on the analytes. What type of analyte you are expecting, and even sometimes urine output also for some diseases they'll check. For that, timed urine sample collection is required, and that is of 2 to 6 hours urine output is collected and it is checked. Then and 24 hours urine sample collection is entire urine output for a 24-hour period is collected, like a timed urine like this only, but here 2 to 6 hours only is collected. Here 24 hours urine sample is collected, but used for metabolites whose excretion rates may vary with time of day. If you want to analyze particular metabolite that is excreted in 24-hour time period, then we need to collect the urine sample for 24 hours. Okay, it is specific, related, or it is based on what type of analyte or metabolite you are expecting to analyze, and full 24-hour collection is needed to be representative. So whole 24-hour collected sample is taken for test. So these are all various kind of urine samples. Based on time it is collected, and based on the analyte it is collected. What kind of metabolite that is present in the urine sample you are going to analyze, based on that analyte, the different kind of urine sample is collected. Okay, so what are the different kinds? First morning sample, then random sample, then timed sample of 2 to 6 hours urine sample, then 24-hour sample. Then other fluids like amniotic fluid, spinal fluid, peritoneal, pericardial, and pleural fluid, saliva, these are all collected when the particular case, based on the patient nature and based on the analyte to be analyzed. And it will be taken specific for specific analysis of some metabolites or analytes, then we'll be going with specific fluid collection. Blood and urine are common samples, will be having mostly all the molecules, so it is easy to diagnose disease. If at all can't analyzed by blood and urine, then we need to go with other fluids. So amniotic fluid used for test of fetal health. Okay, amniotic fluid is tested. Then spinal fluid for meningitis or multiple sclerosis or patient who may have suffered with a cerebrovascular accident. It is depending on CNS. CNS problem, will be collecting spinal fluid, cerebrovascular accident, or if meningitis or multiple sclerosis, like this diseases, symptoms of these diseases, then spinal fluid is tested. Then peritoneal fluid, pericardial and pleural fluid are tested to determine whether it has leaked from blood vessels. The fluids are leaked from blood vessels because of pressure differences, called a transudate, which is relatively low in protein. Because of inflammation or injury, called an exudate. Okay, because of inflammation or injury, it is called as exudate, which is relatively high in protein. So in that case, it is tested. These fluids are tested. When it is tested, when transudate and exudate occurs in the particular tissue, peritoneal, abdomen or heart, or pleural fluid, where we'll be collecting the pleural, where we'll be collecting the which part? Do anyone knows where pleural fluid is collected? So just we'll consider peritoneal and pericardial, abdomen and heart. If fluid is leaking from blood vessel based on the pressure differences, where it is called as transudate, or it will be having low in protein. Then if in that particular organ, if any inflammation or injury happens, then it called as exudate, it will be having high in protein. So this amount of protein is tested taking peritoneal and pericardial fluids. Then saliva. Saliva is tested for low molecular weight substances such as drugs or alcohols, or for drugs of abuse testing, DOA substances like cocaine. These are all drugs of abuse testing. Then for hormones like cortisol for pediatric patients. Since from pediatric patients, blood collection is too painful and stressful, in that case saliva is collected from infants, okay, pediatric patients, for testing cortisol, mainly hormone cortisol. For this purpose, different other fluids are taken and analyzed. Okay, these are various kinds of fluids, and when it is analyzed or discussed. Okay, so this is the second key concept in clinical chemistry laboratory, what we have discussed. First, we have seen what are the analytes commonly are analyzed in the clinical chemistry laboratory. Then we have discussed what are the fluids are tested in the clinical chemistry laboratory. Next, we'll move on to the interpretation of results using reference intervals. There are two kinds of reference intervals: consensus interval and statistical interval. Where consensus interval is nothing but, that's what we have seen as MDL. MDL is medical decision levels. Consensus reference intervals are otherwise known as medical decision levels, MDL, for clinical chemistry tests. And it is decided by some consensus group, like here given, no, American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association. So these are all consensus group. They would have decided reference intervals. So this type of intervals for analyzing a particular analyte is called as medical decision levels or consensus reference intervals. Okay. By using this type of reference intervals, glucose for fasting glucose test is analyzed from knowing about if less than 100 milligram per deciliter, then the patient is considered as non-diabetic. If it varies from 100 to 125 milligram per deciliter, then he considered as pre-diabetic. Okay, so up to 125 milligram per deciliter, pre-diabetic patient he is. If it is more than 126 milligram per deciliter, then the patient is diabetic. So this is the level called as consensus reference interval, and it is prescribed by American Diabetes Association. Okay, so which group is prescribing this reference interval? ADA, American Diabetes Association. Likewise, cholesterol, the different levels, desirable, moderate and high risk levels are given here, and it is decided by American Heart Association and National Cholesterol Education Panel, NCEP. Has given, this consensus group has given the desired reference level interval for cholesterol testing. Likewise, triglycerides, prostate specific antigen, that is PSA, for cancer studies, the American Cancer Society has given this reference interval. Likewise, different consensus group for different constituents, hemoglobin, HbA1c test, normal levels, diabetes, pre-diabetes levels has been decided by American Diabetes Association. and International Federation of Clinical Chemistry (IFCC). This have been given the reference intervals. So this type of reference intervals are called as consensus reference intervals or medical decision levels for clinical chemistry tests, mainly for glucose, cholesterol, triglycerides, prostate specific antigen PSA, HbA1c. This 5 constants and take as example for that. Next, we will see statistical reference interval. There are 2 kinds of reference intervals I told, consensus and statistical. Consensus represents the reference interval decided by consensus group, and it is called as medical decision level, MDL. And another one is statistical reference intervals, where we'll be taking different populations of patients or volunteers. From them, the reference intervals are decided. Okay. Age group from 20 to 50 years for male and 20 to 50 years for female, and more than 60 years male and more than 60 years female, or of different age group of people. From them, the sample is collected and tested for alkaline phosphatase. Then the level varies with the given reference interval. Okay. 53 to 128 units per liter is given. So likewise, for male, this is the reference interval. For female of between this age, will be having 42 to 98 units per liter. Likewise, different population is used for deciding the reference intervals, and the reference interval, whoever is lying in that age group will follow the same reference interval. This is the normal level. If it exceeds or decreases from this level, it will be considered as pathologic condition. So likewise, statistical reference intervals are decided that vary for different populations. Okay, either according to age or according to sex, either male or female, or according to different category of patients: infant, child, adolescent, adult male, and adult female. So according to different population, the reference intervals are decided, and based on that population, we'll be deciding the diagnosing and treating the disease. So this type of intervals are called statistical reference intervals. For example of analytes, following statistical reference intervals are alkaline phosphatase, creatine kinase, and urine creatinine. These 3 constituents are tested, and the test results are correlated with the reference intervals according to statistical reference intervals. How it is taken? Based on different population. Okay, so these are all about different reference intervals, how to interpret the test results. So these are all the main things we have discussed under role of clinical chemistry laboratory. So what is the role of clinical chemistry laboratory? To test qualitatively and quantitatively constituents, biochemicals present in different body fluids. We have seen what are all the different constituents. Okay, these are all different constituents present in the body fluids. These are all different body fluids. Commonly used body fluids are blood and urine samples, and how to collect and what period, according to time period, according to the nature of fluids, we have to collect with different collection tubes, and collection procedures are there we need to follow. Then other fluids, how and when they have been collected for testing different constituents. Then how to interpret results. There are 2 kinds, consensus level and statistical level. The consensus represents a medical decision level. Statistical represents different population it is decided. So with this, I'm completing the introduction on clinical chemistry laboratory. From the next class, we'll be moving on to a discussion on kidney function tests. Okay. So within by today's class, I'm completing the introduction part. 8th unit is getting completed. So you need to write a class test on this chapter, the introduction. In the next class, in the next week class, you need to write a class test. Okay, I'll be assigning during that time. You can write a class test on introduction part. Is there any doubt? Only few terms we have doubt, no, that you can clarify. So refer and clarify. You can convey the message to me also. Okay. What is lipoprotein A and what is ESR? These 2 doubts we have come across, right? So if any other doubts also are there, kindly refer and discuss with me. We'll confirm what is the answer for that question. Okay. Thank you all. Today I have taken little bit fast due to network problem. Okay. I have only minimum data since I have to complete another class also. For that case only, I have moved very fast today's class. Okay. So with this, we'll stop the today's class. We'll discuss if any doubts there, kindly post in the classroom. We'll have discussion. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hope the material is useful to you. You cannot find in any textbook all the points given in the PPT. So you can follow PPT for this chapter for your exam purpose also. Okay. Thank you. Be safe.